Hey, what's going on, everyone? Thank you for tuning in, checking out another video. Sorry if I sound a bit different today, guys. I'm dealing with a bit of a cold here. So what I want to get right into today is talk to you guys about the upcoming matchup between David Lemieux versus Gary Spike Sullivan taking place on the Triple G versus Canelo undercard. Now, I'm intrigued by this fight because, in my opinion, this is a can't-miss fight. Both of these guys' styles match up very well. And let's get right into it and talk about ultimately who I think will win this fight and talk a little bit about both fighters. So let's first start off with Gary Spike Sullivan and what he brings to the table. Spike Sullivan, in my opinion, his best weapon, there's two of them actually in my opinion, left hook to the head. Also his straight right hand is a very effective knockout punch for him. Gary Spike Sullivan is very good as well at going to the body. He's very consistent doing that. Also, I would say that he also has a very good work rate. And that's something that he always is dangerous in a fight, because a guy with that type of work rate who has power can ultimately knock you out at any point of the fight. So that's what, in my opinion, makes Spike Sullivan some of his best weapons, I would say, as a fighter. And ultimately, he's got a lot of momentum going into this fight because recently he hasn't fought very good opposition. So he's knocking these guys out pretty easily. Antoine Douglas, of course, was a very highly rated prospect. However, I think it was too early in his career, that type of showdown. Nonetheless, you got to give it up to Spike Sullivan. And yeah, he has a lot of momentum going into this fight, and he's very confident because he's been absolutely destroying his opposition recently. And I was actually his last fight in Montreal, Quebec, Canada, against Antoine Douglas. So it was a very exciting performance. Now, David Lemieux, what he brings to the table in this fight, when you look at David Lemieux, ultimately Lemieux has that short, vicious knockout power. His left hook is deadly. His straight right hand, also another knockout weapon of his. Uppercuts as well he's hurt opponents with in the past. And Lemieux is at his best when his opponents become a stationary target. He really thrives against opposition that doesn't have that type of movement and high boxing IQ that can move around the ring and is very slick. Lemieux eats guys alive who become stationary targets. You'll see him get them on the ropes, he'll land uppercuts, he'll land body shots, he'll kind of mix up combinations, and he's a vicious puncher. David Lemieux, pound for pound, has got to be in the top 10 in the sport of boxing right now for knockout artists, really, in my opinion. So when you look at some of the strengths that David Lemieux has and advantages, I would say, in this fight over Spike Sullivan, I think he's physically stronger than Spike Sullivan. I also believe he's a bigger power puncher of the two. He's fought better competition by far, in my opinion, so far in his career. Also, I would say that really when you look at it, Lemieux, his back's in the corner in this, I would say, in this fight, because Lemieux, it's do or die for him in this matchup, and Lemieux really thrives in those kind of moments, I would say. Like, his big competition was against Curtis Stevens after he had lost to Triple G. People said he was done. Then, of course, Curtis Stevens got David Lemieux very fired up, and look what happened to Curtis Stevens. He got knocked out for like 7 minutes. So Lemieux really thrives on an opponent's style like Spike Sullivan. Also, Spike Sullivan's been trash-talking him on Twitter, and maybe he's trying to use that Billy Joe Saunders ploy where it gets under Lemieux's head. And it worked for Billy Joe because Billy Joe, of course, is very slick and he wants you to move, he wants you to miss, things like that. And that really frustrates David Lemieux. It takes this kind of trash talk to heart, I would say. However, Spike Sullivan doesn't have near the skill set that Billy Joe Saunders has. So, also, when I look at advantages that Spike Sullivan has in this fight, Spike Sullivan, in my opinion, is a more consistent body puncher. I also think that he's a more high-activity type fighter than David Lemieux. Maybe a little bit better stamina than Lemieux, overall, in my opinion. He's got less wear and tear as well. Lemieux's been in there in tough fights. Billy Joe Saunders, Golovkin. He's been in some other good fights with Rosado, things like that, where he's ultimately won some of these fights, but he did take some punishment, and he's been going around fighting higher competition. So I would say that Gary Spike Sullivan has less wear and tear in his body. Ultimately, guys, my prediction for this fight, I think that David Lemieux knocks out Spike Sullivan in the 6th round, in my opinion. I think that it's going to take Lemieux a little while to warm up. He's going to come out firing. And ultimately, with Spike Sullivan's style, he's going to be in the pocket trading with Lemieux. Lemieux is the bigger puncher. He's physically stronger. I think he catches Spike Sullivan, who was hurt by Chris Eubank Jr., who's not known to be a massive puncher. David Lemieux, a knockout artist. I definitely believe that Lemieux ends up taking Spike Sullivan out by 6th round knockout. However, as the fight goes on, that advantage goes to Gary Spike Sullivan, in my opinion, who I think is a little bit better conditioned. So I think Lemieux knocks out, and that's my official prediction, Lemieux knockout in the 6th round. However, Spike O'Sullivan, if the fight goes longer than that, is going to favor him, and that's where Lemieux's got to be worried. However, I think Lemieux gets him out of there, gets another big fight after Gary Spike O'Sullivan. And this is, like I said, very important fight for both of these guys on the Triple G versus Canelo rematch card. Great card. Let me know what you guys think on this fight, guys, and ultimately who you think wins this matchup. Nonetheless, you got to tune in because it's going to be a knockout. It's going to be an exciting fight. There's no way this fight's going to be boring. Thanks very much, guys, for tuning in. Thank you very much.